Welcome to the board wrap-up for February 2014. We have a special guest. Dr. Pennington is not with us. We have Bret Smith of the Ponca City Public Schools with us. He's going to talk about the February board meeting and a few other things going on in our school system. The February board meeting is always one in which the school board goes ahead and approves a calendar for the next year. A very sounds easy process, but it's a difficult process, isn't it?
It really is. You know, they've got a calendar committee that has to go through all the hoops and so forth in order to figure out how the calendar is going to fit as it relates to the semester, as it relates to the holidays, testing and so forth. So yes, quite a process.
There are a number of days that the kids have to be in school. You have to take that into consideration. Then you build in some weather days. So all of that goes into a little bit of time and a lot of effort.
It does. The 175 days is what's mandated for student contact, and we've got 177 days in there. So we've always been above that state mandate, and we're going to continue to do that as well. We're going to start school on August the 12th. Typical, you know, 12th, 13th is what we've been doing in the past years, and we're going to end on May 21st. The calendar includes 177 days of student contact days, 2 parent-teacher conference days. Winter break will be from December 22nd through January the 4th, spring break from March 16th through the 20th, and it has a couple snow days built in as well.
Bret usually joins us a couple of times a year, and one of the good things about having you on is that your area of expertise, one of them is our buildings in our school district, and I thought I might give you a chance to update our viewers on our building situation, in particular a big move which is going to affect your office, moving down closer to what is now East Middle School.
It certainly is, and it was kind of interesting and funny on that same aspect. I called last night's show the Bret Smith show because I had so many agenda items on there. The first one we had was an interesting report done by PEC engineers out of Wichita. They currently do a lot of our engineering for our building renovations, working through Troy Lewis and Lewis Associate Architects. They had, let me stop and back up a little bit. After the Moore, El Reno, Shawnee tornadoes, you know, it got the district to looking at our safe rooms. And it was always a concern whether or not our safe rooms were adequate or whether they're open and so forth. And the district decided to hire PEC to do an assessment of our building's safe rooms, but they are not safe rooms. You have to be FEMA certified 361 in order to be called a safe room. Ours are areas of refuge because they were not built according to those specifications. Although most of our buildings built in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, and on up are really built well. So we've been very confident in where we put our students and staff. They submitted a report and went through all of the schools and is very comprehensive. It's an assessment, observations, architectural plans, some old blueprints or the lack thereof. Some of the blueprints and plans that we have for the district aren't as detailed as they should be. Back in 1920s and 30s, so forth, they didn't do a lot of the as-builts. You know, once you get a project started, things change. They didn't update those plans. So some of the information that the engineers needed was not available. So they have to make some assumptions. With those assumptions, you get graded down on those because they don't really know without doing a lot of extensive testing and a lot more work involved in order to be able to figure out whether or not this wall's got enough steel in it or whether it's attached to the floor right and so forth. But they did the best they could to give us an idea of basically how safe we are as compared to FEMA specifications. FEMA 361 and the ICC 500 give us that ability to give us near absolute protection. If we built one according to those governmental specs, we would be near absolute protected with a 250-mile-an-hour wind. There's no guarantee Mother Nature changes and throws us curveballs all the time, so that's why it's called near absolute. So our buildings are basically just safe refuge areas. They looked at 10 different buildings, the high school, they looked at West Middle School, our elementary schools, and gave us a good assessment of what our existing conditions are and what are some of the things that we need to address or could address if we wish to, and then a preliminary budget cost estimate, so to speak, to tell us, how we can plan in the future to make these as best we possibly can. We didn't evaluate Garfield. Garfield was built with FEMA 361 specifications in mind.
Wonderful.
There wasn't any reason to have them go through something we already know was in good shape. That was not built with a FEMA grant, so therefore it's not listed on their website as a safe room, but it is because it was their specifications. Union, on the other hand, was built with FEMA grant, and that is also built with the FEMA 361 specs, so they didn't bother with that either. The other school that we didn't mess with was East Middle School. As you know, we've got a tunnel that goes down underground and under the street. We didn't feel that that the engineers needed to mess with that, because probably that tunnel is the safest place in Ponca City. Mm-hmm. and we feel that the students and staff would be okay there. So we did the best we could with the money at hand. Our existing conditions, documented our observations, gave us those assessments, and now we will formulate a plan to make them as best we can throughout the years. And some of those will be in, the plans will be taken care of in our construction, as you mentioned earlier. We are going to begin construction in the old administration building across from East. That is going to be a nice facility that will house central administration, a new boardroom, and that boardroom will double as a staff development place. We can hold about 100 people in there. We can do seminars and other trainings in that particular area, so that will be very, very nice. Woodlands Elementary is another place that we're going to start this summer. Woodlands will, the staff and students will move to Washington for 1 year while we do those extensive renovations over there. Woodlands has a safe room or area of refuge in the cafeteria, such as Washington and Liberty and Trout, and we're going to address one side of that safe room or area of refuge. It's hard for me to get past that safe room because we've always called them those. They've got windows on one side that we need to take care of, and in construction we'll take care of those as well. Lincoln is also another one that's going to have construction done starting this summer. We're going to put a new HVAC system on there and a new roof. It's going to look fantastic, and they have above ground safe rooms in that particular building. And so the engineers evaluated those as well and found out that in many cases they exceeded the specifications that FEMA requires. But there are a couple other issues that we need to address, and we'll address those in that construction project. So we're started already in getting prepared for all that.
You know, there are buildings that are within the boundaries of our school districts. For instance, the one we're sitting in, the one you're moving to, the food services building, the bus barn. Do they take a look at those properties as well and to see how they are built and constructed?
No, they didn't look at those. We went to the schools first in this process because that's where our students and staff are. It costs a lot of money to have an engineering study, so we're doing this a little bit at a time. We've got a plan with those other places to move in the event that we've got some severe weather. But those buildings, like the maintenance and the transportation building, they're metal buildings. They're not safe to be in during weather. So we have to move those folks as best we can during those weather events.
Absolutely. And when we take a look at our buildings and the state in general, and I'll ask you a question that you may not have the answer for, but we hear a lot of talk out of the legislature about appropriating money so that schools can build and have all these safe rooms. Is it proper for school districts to go ahead and take the initiative rather than wait on the legislature to maybe appropriate some money for that?
Absolutely. You know, if a district has the ability to pass bond issues and they've got the support of the general public, or they've got some building fund money, a lot of districts will have an excess of building fund. You can't use that money for salaries and so forth, but you can do things with buildings. You know, and that's what we do in Ponca City Schools as best we possibly can. The current idea to build safe rooms in the state of Oklahoma is in court. They've not decided whether or not they can actually get this accomplished yet with a bond issue for the state of Oklahoma. So we're waiting on that. If it happens, that's fantastic. We're not going to wait around. We're going to start building them as soon as we can.
Already we talk about the funding for education, and so you're probably better off to move forward with that. But it sounds like, Bret, overall, if you have a child that goes to one of our schools and we have severe weather, you're very confident that they will be placed in a safe place where they're not going to get hurt.
I am confident that they are going to be in the best place we can possibly put them in each one of those schools. They are below ground. That's the best place to be, and we're confident that they're going to turn out all right.
A couple of things that people may have just caught wind of as we were visiting there about the safe rooms is that the administration building actually is going to be moving. Give us a timetable on that and how that is going to work, Brett.
Well, last night the board approved accepting the rest of the bidding process with Rick Scott Construction, who is our construction manager for that project. And we had some of the subcontracts that did not get bids the first time in November, and a couple that we had to rebid because we changed the structure of that particular contract. So the board accepted those last night to give us a final guaranteed maximum price, is what they call it for the construction manager. Guaranteed maximum price sounds really good because they guarantee that's all it's going to cost if something doesn't come up unforeseen or we make a change in-house. So the board approved that as well and decided that with that approval that construction can begin as soon as we get contracts signed. The estimated timeline will move in probably December or January of this same year.
With the advances in technology since that building really has been used extensively like that, is there a scenario of having to go in and rewire that old building?
You know, that's one thing about that old building. It needed it from top to bottom. We're going to completely gut that building. The plumbing is bad. The electricity is not sufficient. The HVAC has been there since the 90s. So we're taking everything off and we're repairing and installing new all the way to the street to the city utilities because it's in poor shape.
But the building itself is in great shape.
It is in great shape. You know, structurally, they built those buildings really well back in those days, so structurally we're in good shape.
And the other thing that I kind of wanted you to talk about a bit is that people may have heard us whip by the closing of Woodlands for a year and the moving of students. Mm-hmm. And this is going to be a process which is actually going to be a couple of years because then you're going to do the same thing with Trout Elementary as you update that building. Mm-hmm. And if you could maybe just pass along some early information here for those parents that have students that go to Woodlands Elementary, the way you get your child to school is going to change next year.
It will change. You know, we're going to provide transportation. You know, you can drop your kids off at Woodlands, pick them up by the bus, and we can take them over to Washington. There'll be some shuttle opportunities at that point, or you can bring your kids over there just like you would now at Woodlands, and that's fantastic as far as that's concerned. We'll start this process during the summertime. We're getting the building ready. Washington just got a new roof and HVAC put on it. We're cleaning it up top to bottom, making some repairs, getting it ready for the Woodland students and staff. So we've got some time to get that accomplished. The building will not hold all of the students as it currently stands, so I've got to bring in 2 portable buildings in order to accommodate the rest. And that includes Trout as well. There's just a few more kids in those buildings than the current Washington will allow us. So the portables will be put in. We'll have to do that as soon as school's out this spring in order to get those there, get them all set up and ready to go. And we'll start in August moving those kids in and have them start to school. It'll be a slow process to get it going, but you know, the teachers they seem to be excited about it. They're not going to have to live with construction. The kids are going to be safe without construction. The construction workers love it when they don't have kids around, and so it'll be a little bit of a process, but I think people are pretty excited about it.
You know, and your expertise again. Sometimes you can do a building over a summer, a couple of months, but the projects that you're talking about with Woodlands and with Trout are more extensive than that.
Absolutely, you know, and that is we typically have done that in the past, but I try to get them done in a couple months. The school year is slowly squeezing it down. There's not much summer months left, but these projects are 10, 11-month projects. We're going to inundate the entire building because not only are we going to go in and replace flooring in all the classrooms, but we're going to move the offices out forward. Those offices will allow parents and visitors to come in and be stopped in a vestibule space. It'll be a locked area that they can go from there straight into the office. Currently, you can walk in the front doors and go anywhere you want to before you go to the office. So we're going to make it safe. We're going to take care of some ADA issues. Currently, you walk in and you have to go upstairs. That's not able to give a parent the opportunity to come see their kid, whether or not we have special education students in Woodlands or not. A parent may be in a wheelchair that wants to come see their students' classrooms. So this will allow that. Put in some elevators, some chair lifts to make the entire building ADA accessible.
I live right by Woodlands Elementary, and I'm sure people that live by Trout too. You drive by those buildings, and they're really well kept up. And those buildings don't look it, but they're now 40 and 50 years old, aren't they?
They certainly are, and you're right. They have been kept up very well, and we're proud of that. You know, with the citizens helping us pass bond issues over these last 20 some years, it allowed us to keep that up. We've replaced roofs, we've replaced HVAC equipment, we're doing floors, we're doing some cabinets, and we're just going through every building. Once we went through them, we're going to start back again. That gives us nice buildings for a very long time.
Now we'll give props to either you or Dr. Pennington or somebody, but genius is the word I used on the radio. When Washington closed down, did you have this all in mind, or was this just a great way that this worked out for our school district?
You know, to be honest with you, it was just a great way that it worked out. You know, when we closed Washington, we just didn't have enough kids in Ponca City to keep that open. It wasn't cost effective. And our alternative school moved in there. That still gave us some purpose for that building, and it worked out well. A lot of other things changed along the way, as the Ombudsman program, and now Wildcat Academy has taken over. So the building remains empty. Well, just like the building over on East Grand that we're going to renovate now, when a building is empty and it just sits there, it deteriorates. Kids will break into it, or anybody else that may want to get in there to check it out and so forth, and it just fall apart. So the '09 bond issue gave us some money to put HVAC and a roof on Washington. We didn't do anything with that for a while because the building was empty. We had a purpose now in order to get this accomplished with safe entrances and ADA issues with the other schools. And with an empty building, I mean, why not? It's going to save us money, save us some headaches, and keep the kids safe in the process.
Absolutely, and with the proximity of our schools, our elementary schools, so close to each other, it's a little bit of an inconvenience, but man, what a perfect scenario to be able to renovate two buildings and not have to completely move students across town.
Yeah, it really is nice to have an empty building to do that. Not very many folks, especially public schools, have that ability to do that, and have a building that's up to date or ready for the kids to move into. You know, what's interesting is Woodlands. You know, their kids are really not that close to Washington. Proximity-wise across town, that's not too bad. But Trout, their current attendance area already goes to Hartford. So some of those kids who have to walk, ride, or catch a bus to Trout now can just almost walk across the street whenever they move into it. So that's going to be handy for them for at least a year.
Absolutely. I know you're busy, but I wanted to give you a chance. If there's anything else about the February board meeting that you wanted to pass along to our viewers, this is your opportunity.
Well, of course, we passed the calendar, and that got that out of the way. So now we can plan on what we need to do for the next school year. The board made a proclamation for March 3rd, 2014 for Read Across America Day. That's always kind of an exciting time in all our elementaries. You know, Dr. Seuss and all of the people that get to come in and read to our students, the parents, the dads, the grandparents. It's an exciting time, and it gets people involved in education. And so that proclamation is so exciting whenever they get that accomplished and get that started in our schools on March the 3rd. The other thing that we did is we approved an agreement with United Private Networks. Our technology is so important. Bond issues help with that as well. Without bond issues, we couldn't stay up to date, and it's important for those kids to stay up to date in technology. It moves so fast. This is an agreement for infrastructure. It will speed up our computer systems. It goes to a 10 gig line that goes from our central administration to every school. We currently have a 1 gig, and this will increase to 10 gigs. So technology gets a lot faster, and the company that does this takes care of it in total. If we have a problem, we just call them and they take care of it instead of worrying about AT&T, who is getting rid of their lines that are in it now. So it was a short board meeting. We had a nice one. It was we were out of there by 7:30, and short board meetings sometimes are really nice to have.
Absolutely. The guy behind the camera appreciates that
Yes,
too,
he does.
doesn't he? Chris Adams. Brett, thanks so much for your time. Have a great month, and we'll see Dr. Pennington in March. Bret Smith with the Ponca City Public Schools. For Chris Adams behind the cameras, I'm Phil Turney.